For being here. We are not stopping. It's a non-stop event. We are going to see it. Mark is introducing Josep Bohigas.
Now the main event. I'm very happy to have you here, Josep Bohigas, because we talked about a lot of things. Now we talked about academia and the city, but in the end, well, we want to see what really happens on the ground. And we look to certain reference cities in Europe which were very, let's say, entrepreneurial over the last, not years, but decades, really to transform the cities. And you find a lot of these cities in the north, in Scandinavia and Holland, etc., and there are not that many cities actually to be found in the south of Europe. But there's one which is really, I think also the Olympics in Barcelona in 1992 played a very, very important role, which changed over the time and which demonstrates to us what you can do also in a very dense city, in a city with small blocks, with really few open green spaces, and this is Barcelona. And a lot of students, we asked last time, okay, whom to invite when we invite a city, so that they really can see what happens on the ground and what happens in and not only talking about all these academic concepts, etc. They said, hey, can you please invite somebody from Barcelona? We can invite somebody from Barcelona. Josep came here for this event only, and we can do it because we're supported by the Schwarz Foundation. This is a foundation based in Munich, and also in the island of Samos, which is also funding cultural projects. And for 2 years now, they're offering us the chance to discuss here about the future of Athens in Munich, here in Athens. And I really have to thank you, and please, may I ask for a little applause for this super generous support we're getting from the Schwarz Foundation, which also made it possible that you're here tonight, Josep. Okay, who is he? I learned from your CV, you have sent me this very small written CV. He's trained as an architect, right? And he's professor at the Technical University of Barcelona, too, adds up. But then he's also the chairman of this urban regional transformation agency, no idea what it's called, you will tell in a second. And this is the agency behind what is happening in Barcelona and what we're looking at. The very small-scale projects, but also, and this I admire most, also the larger picture for the city and the city region of Barcelona, because they have the same problems. From my last visit in Barcelona, I also know that the city limits of Barcelona you cannot recognize by seeing the city and then the land, but there's the city and there's the next city. So we have to work on these different scales, and now we want to learn how to do it. The floor is to you. Thanks to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation. I hope I won't disappoint you, because you expressed like the example of Barcelona, as it was a great example to only talk about the great things that we did since the Olympic Games. And the story that I want to explain, maybe it's how I call it, it's a story of winning, but at the same time of losing, because we lost many things in the way. And now we are kind of trying to reconquer, or something like that. Reconquer, maybe it's a too strong word in a moment that we are dealing with a war, but I don't like these bellic words, but I would say that somehow it's really a fight that we are having to get back with our city. The story started long ago, no? And maybe there's one important moment which everybody kind of recognizes, the success of a city, or the beginning of the success of a city that said hello to the world. So this hello that we wrote in the middle of the stadium, of the Olympic Stadium, the day that we opened up our Olympic Games, was like saying to the world, hello to a world that didn't know exactly who we were. No? We always said that the main thing about the Olympic Games was putting the city in a map. No? This is a good and a terrible thing to try to do, and we definitely succeed in that. No? Even our mascot of the Olympic Games was kind of hugging and saying hello to the world. No? And even our mayor, which was very important, mayor that transformed the city, because cities are transformed not by architects, they are transformed by politicians. That's a very important thing to recognize too. So if you have a good politician, maybe you will have a good city, but if you have bad politicians, you definitely won't have a good city, even if you have good architects behind, or engineers, or environmental technicians. And he said this stupid sentence that we laughed when we wrote it. No? The goal is to be the best city in Europe, or one of the best cities in Europe, something that we laughed because it was something impossible to do it. No? And we had the Olympic Games and then started this amazing running to become part of this map that I was telling before. But this story started maybe before, years before, in a moment when we started having the democracy after Franco died. And we started with some little projects, no, with these acupuncture projects that we had from the 80s, at the beginning of the 80s, no, with more than 50 little spots in the city that started to change the city. It was a city, was a gray city, was a city that we couldn't gather in public spaces because the dictatorship forbidden to be more than 4 or 5 people together talking in the street, so the street was not a public space. So we started, after he died, and after we started with our democracy, to have new public spaces. You know, all these little dots are little plazas to gather, little plazas to start thinking about this democracy. And these little plazas were done with few money, and with this strategy, which I think is the most emotional moment that we live in this urban transformation. Some of them were simply just opening, taking cars out, opening spaces in front of some monument. Some others were more complicated because it was this both thing at the same time to rediscover our central old city, and at the same time to connect with the new cities that didn't have any public spaces, and then they were transformed to allow people to gather around. No? Or other more famous spaces that nobody has really used it in a proper way, but still there were attempts, very risky attempts, to kind of discover new ways to gather in the public spaces, no? Or parks, in the places where there were quarries and they didn't exist, and all these different little strategies became a little bit bigger in a new strategy when we had the Olympic Games. No? In '86, we decided to, not just by doing little plazas, but taking 4 big spaces that were the 4 areas of the Olympic Games, and then connect them all with a ring road that went all around. These 4 areas kind of were the excuse, one, to open the city to the sea, the other one opened the city to the mountain of Montjuic, and the other 2 opened the city to the mountain of Collserola. 4 dots, very well placed for the Olympic Games, not for the Olympic Games, that we didn't really care about these 15 days of people jumping, but were very important to take those 4 areas and to create a whole strategy for the city to transform it as a whole. No? The Olympic Village, the Olympic Ring, and the ring around, the ring road around that connect all those Olympic areas, no? Which most of them were going through those areas that were forgotten during the Franco dictatorship, and was an excuse also to connect them all. Well, in '92, we end up with all this process of transformation, the '80s until the '92, which was amazing to see our city constantly being opening new spaces and really becoming this part of a map, at least in the discussion of the urban transformations. And then in '92, our mascot was flying out of the stadium, and our city started to become depressed. Depressed at one hand, and because after this enormous effort, you become a little depressed, and at the same time started to become recognized all over the world as a city to visit. So we can say that we had different periods, but the period that come after the Olympic Games was a period of, we started kind of selling our soul to the world because we became recognized as a city, as a global city. So many investors and many people start working and building in our city. So we could recognize these three periods: the acupuncture period from the 80s to 1986, from the 86 to 92, the Olympic Games, and the third period that started after 92 was this moment of the Forum of Cultures. A forum that was an event that our mayor invented to keep working and keep transforming the city in the same speed and the same kind of transformation. You know, the Olympic Games allowed us to open up the city to the sea in one part, and the Forum of Cultures allowed us to keep opening the city to the sea and keep building and transforming the city. But the problem is that we were depressed, economically depressed, so the way that we had to do all this new project was kind of selling it or trying to find the way to share it with private investment. All the rest before was done with public investment and was with public leadership, and then at this point we started to sell it and to work it together with the private investment. You see the amazing transformation that the Forum of Culture supposed for the city, but you don't see what we had to do to pay it, no? Which is here it's quite easy to see it. No? You see all the public transformation, but at the same time you can see here a new kind of city that was created by Heinz, which is an American investor that bought most of the part in front of the sea and created this kind of new town with shopping mall and with houses that had nothing to do with the model of the city transformation that we lived the years before. So you see, for instance, the logo of the forum, no? You see those hands, no? It seemed to me always that those two hands were the private and the public shaking hands, but in fact was this I would say a terrible situation that you can see it very easily with those two triangular buildings. One which is public and it's built by Herzog and de Meuron, and it's supposed to be one of the best architects in the world, and it's supposed to be one of the best buildings in the city, and at the same time another triangle building right in front of it, which was one of the worst buildings in the world, which is done by Stern. It's a shopping mall, a terrible shopping mall without windows, without a connection with the city, connected with cars, with a highway that connects directly to the parking spaces, and with, at the same time, with a neighborhood which is almost a gated community with towers built as if it was Singapore or something like that, where Heinz had built many promotions. So it's an amazing transformation that we can also see it with the logos of the city. No? This one is a fantastic logo from the 80s, that it was very simple. No? We were saying a little bit, discovering in our word, in the word of our city, three words: bar. Everybody knows what is a bar. When we didn't have public spaces, we gathered in bars during the 80s, and bars were very important for the transformation of this democracy, of this young democracy. Cel means sky in Catalan, and we started looking up instead of looking down. After 40 years of dictatorship, we started looking at the sky and the new horizons. And ona, which is the more important, that means wave. So we started discovering and opening our city to the sea, you know, something that we didn't really know that had the beaches, because and all these projects of the sea are in fact projected, you know, at that point. And this went on with other slogans, which are some of them terrible. Mainly this last one. No? One is Barcelona posa't guapa, Barcelona make yourself pretty. That's a program to clean our facades, to clean our streets, and to have like this beautiful stage for foreigner people to come and investors to come to our city. It was at the beginning a very good program to help people to clean their facades, no? But at the end was in fact the recreation of this stage. And the last one, which is a terrible, is Barcelona, the best shop in the world. then when you see something like that, you realize which kind of city you are creating, no? A city that had become a shop, and as I was saying before, to sell itself. And the last one, which maybe it's even more terrible, but Barcelona inspires with this cloud that kind of imitates Gaudí design or something like that, no? So something difficult to understand. And then, of course, becoming part of one of the best cities in Europe, as our mayor said. In fact, we really became one of the best cities in Europe. Now we are in all rankings in the world. We are I mean, in many different cases, we are there in the rankings. No? But in fact, it's a ranking, most of them related with the coming of those investments, of all these start architects that come to our city, and we allow them to build exceptions in our city. For instance, no? We see like this building of Jean Nouvel, which is quite famous, no? Came to our city and landed, no? Allowing them to build an exception, a urban exception. But it's not only them, it's also Ricardo Bofill, it's also Dominique Perrault, it's also Álvaro Siza, it's also Frangheri, it's also Norman Foster. I mean, we have, I would say, one of the cities with more star architects lending with those big companies to our city. No? It's a really a crazy situation that you can feel that our city had been somehow sold. And as you know, that they all know that we have like Gaudí as one of our most important items to show around the world. They come, like Toyoito, for instance, thinking that we are kind of stupid, and they create buildings with an excuse of Gaudí. No? He was saying that this building, which is in front of La Pedrera, that is La Pedrera of 21st century, and in fact is a project that he only did design the facade. So again, no, these masks. We are creating masks in our city, creating this stage, no, for people to come and to visit and to enlighten with our architecture, which in fact I would say is not architect; it's only the dress of an architect. Or Norman Foster, that came to the project of the new stadium of Football Club Barcelona, and he said that was inspired with the dragon of the Parc Güell. Or, of course, Jean Nouvel, that was saying that he was building the tower that it's now finishing of the Sagrada Familia, no? Inspired of that. But even worse examples is Ricardo Bofill, no? That he was imitating a building which has nothing to do with our culture, and of course building in a place which is forbidden. No? So and in front of a very, very popular, magnificent neighborhood, which is La Barceloneta, that is being gentrified very, very quickly. So as I was saying, here there's another Adelson, no? who builds those casinos in Singapore. No? He wanted to buy part of Barcelona to create a big casino of prostitutes and drug dealers, and this, fortunately, we changed the government and we stopped it. But it was about to be built in our city. So I was saying that we loved the way we started and opening Barcelona to the world and saying hello to the world, but at the same time we started recognizing, many people in the city, that this way to become a global city had also its counterpart. No? Here is a great building by Manuel Delgado that's saying that the lying city, a city that is being lying to us a little bit and is somehow transformed itself, saying one thing but doing the other. Or Horacio Capel, a geographer, who's talking about the famous model of Barcelona, what it is, no? In fact, what it used to be and what it has become. No? Or I Hate Barcelona, or this one, which is a great book by another geographer, Muñoz, that is urbanalization, no? which is the process that we've been through in these great transformations. So we realized that we start losing our important parts of the city. No? We all used to love La Ramblas, maybe one of the nicest streets in Europe, that goes from from the center, from Plaza Catalunya, and runs down to the sea. But this Rambla, we never go anymore. We try, Barcelonians, we try to not ever walk in La Ramblas because it's a terrible place to walk. Now with the pandemic, it has become great again. But it's a place that many things happen at the same time, and it's not really a place for the citizenship. This picture, for instance, is amazing. No? It's a German tourist with a Mexican hat, that the hat is being fabricated in China. So it's a completely mess of identities that we are dealing here with. No? But it's not only the Ramblas, it's the Monument of colonized by Football Group Barcelona, and many other situations. Some of them very, very painful. For instance, our port has been sold to Russian mafia and is taken by enormous big boats in front of, as I was saying before, this magnificent popular neighborhood like Barceloneta, no? Which is being gentrified and now is not anymore a popular and maritime neighborhood. So we said hello at the beginning, no? But now we are saying goodbye. Adeu in Catalan means goodbye. Goodbye to Las Ramblas, goodbye to Parkway, goodbye to Paseo de Gracia, goodbye to Barceloneta, goodbye to the city that we wanted to recover. No? In the 80s, we wanted to open up those places to the citizenship, and then years after, because of the success, we died of success, or we're dying of success, or whatever, and because of the enormous pressure investments that we are dealing now, and they are kicking people out of their own city. No? And it's not a place, the center of the city is not a place for people to live. It's a place to invest. So the change, or the third part is, no, we won, we lost, and now we are trying to recover by doing something very simple, which is putting, again, the people in the center. We don't put the money in the center, we don't put the tourism in the center, we put the people, again, who lives in, we don't care if the people are from abroad. We love people from abroad that live in the city, but what we don't really like is to sell our city to the people that they come, that they don't really even know exactly in which city they are visiting. So this putting the people in the center is based basically in this onion that we create around the people, claiming those rights, the right for housing. No, the first is our own scheme, so the right for health. No, and all the things and all the projects that we are doing because of creating a healthy environment, no? Mainly related, of course, with the quality of air, which is something which is in Barcelona terrible. It's one of the worst qualities of air in Europe. Also with Madrid, in Spain, we have a real, also because of the geography, we have these mountains, and we have the port, and we have the cars, and this situation, I think, is one of the first and main issues that we have to deal. But the second and most important is our second scheme, which is our house. Barcelona and Spain in general, it's a place that we have a very, very few public housing, affordable housing. It's in France they have 25%. In Barcelona we have 1.5% of public housing. So it's a very important issue to deal with this second scheme. Of course, to keep going with other schemes like the right to the neighborhood, the right to the city, the right to the metropolis, and of course, we have also the right to become a global city, but not to do it the opposite way. No? We've been thinking that if we were a global city, then we will have great houses, and that didn't happen. No? We just stayed at this level of just creating this image of a great, wonderful and stage for people to come to invest. So around these people in the center and around these rights, we also create some strategies which are related to fill the streets with life, to recover neighborhoods, to, of course, the ecological transition, the reorient major transformations. Some of them, they were already in a bad direction, so to have to reorient those major transformations, and of course to think big in terms of metropolitan area and not just to focus all the investment in the center of the city as been always been doing, the places which were more successful. Around this scheme, we have all the projects that we are doing at the same time, which something also that's very important is, as I was saying, to distribute them all in the whole areas, not just to concentrate them, as I was saying. And mainly, I'm going to explain two of those projects, only two, which I think are quite big to understand at least the whole. One is the superblock strategy, which in fact means it's what is inside of the ring road that we built in the '92, how to deal with the dense and consolidated existing city, which is not about creating new neighborhoods, it's about recycling what we have. And the superblock strategy, what it does is a major recycling project for the tissue that already exists. And the other one is the ring road territory strategy, which is how to deal with, we were responsible in '92 to build this highway. I'm sure that if now we should do it, we wouldn't do it again. We don't believe anymore in highways around our cities. We believe that instead of highways, we should do streets. And we definitely we don't want to invest most of our money in private transportation. We should deal it with public transportation. This is something that in '92 we didn't do. We invest most of our money in building the ring road, and we didn't spend any money in doing any public transportation. So now we kind of reverse this, and also to rethink about this highway as a great excuse to connect things, as a great excuse also to deal with this double project, the project that we did in Barcelona Regional, which is the ring road strategy we developed here, and the strategy that we did in the Barcelona Ecologia, which is a superblock. The ring road territory, as I was saying, in fact, it's a project that deals with four big projects. One, it's to rethink our relation with the sea. We build up our beaches because we didn't have beaches. All our seafront is artificial. Almost everything is artificial, and it's something that also we have to rethink about. Would we do it again the same way? Putting sand and fighting against the sea? Probably not. So now it's a great opportunity to rethink about a new way the city relates with the sea. Also, the new way the city relates with the two rivers. We have two rivers around. This is Bezos, where this is concentrates most of the poverty of the whole country. So now it's a great opportunity to do a social project around the river. Also here we have in the River Llobregat the concentration of big, enormous forces, economic forces, like the airport, like the port, like the industrial area. So it's a very important project with the X of the economy. And also we have the mountain, the central park of the region, which is also a project, a very important project belonging to environment. So we have the social, the economic, the environmental project, and here in the sea, the most identity and a project that has a little bit everything. The four projects, like the projects of 600 little projects all around, and I'm going to try to explain just some very quickly. One of the big projects that we used to work before this government was the possibility to connect with doors. We say doors, but with the mountain. Our idea is not only to connect with the mountain, but also connect with the sea, creating like these green-blue corridors that crosses the whole city. So this is a great opportunity to connect those two ecologies. But and that's what something that is already been doing, to connect the mountain with the sea. But mainly with the project of the seafront, we realize that, of course, that the distance, the density is very short, and what is very important is to kind of realize that Barcelonians are a strange kind of an animal which belongs at the same time from the mountain into the sea. No? Even our gastronomic culture, it's mar y montaña, it's sea and mountain, which is, you find it in our dishes. So it's to realize that we belong to both ecologies and to create those corridors that infect economically, socially, and culturally the whole city. But mainly when we hit the seafront, is instead of thinking the seafront this way, which is I've been always thinking like this, no? Creating a urban strategy only related with itself, instead of that we want to change it and use it transversely, no? And create doors to the sea as well, no? And connect and really ask to the project of the seafront what can be related, very strongly related with the needs of the people that they are behind. We are not doing beaches for the tourism. We are doing beaches for the neighborhoods that are behind. So the important project that now we are dealing is how to connect very, very strongly and easily with the neighborhoods that are behind. And also, how do we deal with the sea? No? This is the seafront in the 50s, and this is the seafront now. No? As you see, we invented our seafront, and this is something we cannot do it anymore. It's so stupid. Every year a storm comes and takes all the sand out of our beaches, and it's something that now with the new strategy of resilience, we have to deal with it and work with nature instead of against nature. So this is the other big thing about the project. And mainly one of the main issues is talking about those dimensions of maritimity. Barcelona has done many things in the seafront during the last years, but none of them, or only a few of them, are related with the sea. No? We are putting shopping malls, we are putting five-star hotels, we are putting casinos, we are putting bars and restaurants, but we are not really talking about the blue economy and the cultural, spatial, social, and economic forces that have the sea to really inform the city as a whole. No? So we really have maritimity, but just formally. No? We have a shrimp on top of a pergola. We have a fish on top of a casino. We have a five-star hotel with the shape of a sail. We have a boat, which is a restaurant. We have waves, which are a shopping mall. But none of them are related with the sea. No? So we have to change this culture, not only formally, no? Not only doing forms that relate to the sea, but content, really content related with it. So the projects that we are doing, I'm just going to explain some of them very fast. One is a great opportunity. We are happy to announce that the seafront is not finished. They didn't finish it in the Olympic Games, and we still have places to think. And maybe it's a great opportunity to think it in this other way. No? And one is these 2 kilometers in the seafront that we have to think if we want beaches, if we want a malecon, if we want a neighborhood, or if we want a shopping mall. So we have this amazing opportunity of these 2 kilometers, but also this factory, this power plant that has been empty, and now we are thinking which kind of programs we could give it. But at the same time, something which is very important is that we have a river here, and the mouth of a river that it's canalized now, like if it was a sewage. So it's a great opportunity now that we have to open up the river and create this new landscape. No? So something that here we have Joanna, a part of our team, and the director of the team that has been dealing with all these landscape projects. She's Greek at the same time, but she lives in Barcelona and works in Barcelona Regional. No? She could explain it much better than I will. No? But definitely, one great opportunity is to redefine this line, this coastline, with this great opportunity of a new area and a new mouth of a river. As I say, creating also not only new landscapes for the city and for the river, but also to defend or to deal with the great struggles that we have with the storms and the water that definitely will rise, not only because the level will rise, that definitely will rise in 50 years, 1.5 meters, but also because of the storms that we are calculating that more or less will be more than 5 or 6 meters that will deal with all these areas. So we have to laminate the water that hits the ground. Also, to think about what can we do with this building. I'm not going to go very far from it, but it's a very emotional project that we are dealing now, and we're doing many proofs and things, and also with a neighborhood that can grow behind. It's a neighborhood that we don't want it to be only for as for investment, like it was done before. It's a social housing, 50% social housing, and 50% productive area. You know? So at the same time, creating new typologies related also with the tissues and the industrial areas that are behind. And at the same time, of course, creating this new ecology related with the river mouth. This one is a project that Joanna has been drawing the last year. It's also an amazing moment, no? to keep working and giving continuity to the seafront in terms of public spaces, but not only dealing also with this new opportunity and possibility to deal with the sea, but also to connect with those doors that we were talking before with the city that is behind. No? Amazingly, we still have now something which is incredible, a parking in front of the sea, no? That we want to go from a parking to a park, no? But a park that is creating a new relation also with the beach. No? Before we used to have this, no? And now we are dealing with this other topography, a topography that needs to be sure and believe that someday maybe the sea will take over the sand, no? And we will still have some place interesting to deal with. No? I think that this is a new designing of beach, which is not a beach of sand. It's another kind of relation with the sea, because we are sure that we won't have enough money to keep every year putting more and more sand there. Another very important project is the Olympic port. No? We saw before that we designed a nice port, a new port for the Olympic Games, but the day after we sold it all to nightclubs and bars, and became one of the center of drug dealing and prostitutes in Barcelona. So here, every year, people die. It was a very, very, very dangerous place to be. And now we are taking out all those bars and creating this blue economy with other programs, and also with programs that are related with the neighborhoods behind, like the School of Sealing that was already here. We're enlarging those programs to allow the citizenship to gather there. No, or even those doors, no, that now are parking spaces. No, you can see the port, which is in fact a parking space, and opening it up and opening these doors to allow the city to go there. Another project, which this one we just presented, Joanna just presented 2 days ago to the port, and we are very happy because it seems that our strategy seems that it's going to be successful. We are convincing them, no, that after, during the 80s, no, we said that we opened the city to the sea by doing this project by Manuel Sola Morales, an interesting project, was very published and was very famous at that point, like part of the model of Barcelona, but that in fact he did this. We still have this enormous frontier with cars, which is this highway, the ring road that we were talking before, and we cannot really easily get to the sea. No? We are now changing the project, no? And with those doors, this is La Ramblas, this is Villa Laetana, we are opening it now, and also we are creating a new door in the middle to allow this dense and packed Gothic neighborhood to have like its own park in front of the city. Well, this is some images which are quite fresh. Not even the mayor has seen it already, but that we can see a little bit how this can be developed. No? La Ramblas getting to the sea and creating new infrastructures that are allowing people to gather around. No? Or this central plaza, which is blocked by the highway, no? Open it up and crossing and allow people to really touch the water. Or in Via Laietana, no? This is the other door, no? Which now it's quite impossible to cross with the cars and to cross and to really get to the sea, no? To open it cleanly up and create a new social program, which is going to be a public and social program related with the Opera House that are going to be placed here as a great excuse to connect with the city. Well, those are all those projects. And the last one I'm going to explain is this idea of to also not only think about those doors that hit the sea, but also how the sea will hit the city. No? And this image, which is a little bit, this is not a project itself, it's just a projection of what could happen. No? And we imagine that one day we will start losing our beaches, and maybe there will be one beach, which is the original one, which is Barceloneta, that we will save it. But the rest of the beaches, maybe we will lose them. And then we will have to create new strategies as the one that we were explaining before, no? To relate with the sea. No? But maybe one of them we will be able to save it, because it's the historical beach of La Barceloneta. And by doing it also, we could create also a new opportunity for this beach to survive with new programs. Well, the project is in a book, in exhibition, and we are going on and further with, I think it's more than 20 projects all around the seafront, and some of them, they are already being transformed, and some others, maybe we won't see them until, I don't know, in 10 or 15 years. But the other one is the other project that I was telling you. This one is already being done, and we are kind of very excited because I think it's a very simple but radical project of transformation and recycling the interior area of the ring road. This is the Superblock project. I don't know if you know about it. I know that some of you already, and we've been talking about it, but I'm going to go quite fast because it's quite easy to understand. The idea is to recycle the grid by putting another grid on top with basic roads that allow only cars to go through those basic roads, and the rest are free to the people. So that's the main thing of the project, no? And it is the real scheme we are working. No? So those are the real roads that you could, and the rest are becoming the parks that we don't have, the plazas that we don't have, because it's a very dense city. So it's a very easy way, without demolishing any building, to recover all these spaces. No, this is the scheme. We have like 3 times 3, and then we allowed only cars go in the perimeter, and those streets are free from cars. What can happen when you do this? One thing is maybe you can change topography. No? You have this section in the normal streets. No? Maybe we could think about this section, or maybe we could think about permeability, something very important. No? Our cities don't allow water to go so it's allowing to gain water for the cycle, for the cycle of water. We can also change the kind of we use greenery. No? Here are dens to stop the smoke and the sound of cars, but maybe we can free from that. Those are aligned one next to the other, and maybe those can freely put it in the center of the street. Also with the light, it can happen the opposite. No? Lights are here because of the cars, and maybe when you go inside of the superblock, can be lights that have a human scale. That could be another situation. But why do we promote? Basically because we release more than 70% of the space. No? It's a social injustice that not even 50% of the people have car in Barcelona, and we are giving them 85% of our space. So it's completely unequal and injustice. So we have to kind of go back to this equality. Also because we promote them because of the quality of public space and the habitability of the urban quality. Also because reduces easily and fast air pollution. As I said before, Barcelona is one of the worst places in Europe to breathe. So it's urgent that we deal with this shift of changing. We have 3,500 premature deaths in the city because of the polluted air, and it's urgent to deal with it. But the project of superblocks didn't start because of the air. It started because of the noise, because also the noise level are so high that are creating disease, mental disease and stress and other many problems and quality of habitability that it's urgent also to deal. Also because, of course, we can reduce radically the heat island effect. Now we have those areas with cars, with no permeable soil, without enough greenery, the opportunity to create those new landscapes, of course, reduces this effect. And of course, we connect greens. Now, this is the current situation of our poor and little plazas and little parks that we have. The opportunity of creating superblocks is to connect them, which everybody knows that the most important thing is to connect those green areas to allow biodiversity. But one also the things that are more encouraging is that we can, by doing so, we can release 150 new squares. The crossing of Barcelona, as you know, is a very special crossing because it has like those corners that are cutted, and it's more than 2,000 square meters of plaza that if you take cars out can be easily recovered. So, as I said before, it's a 6 million square meter recycling project without demolishing any building, just by not allowing cars going through. And all that spaces we wanted, of course, because there is a pressure of the citizenship that needs to do things instead, or not only walking and crossing, which is what our streets have become, and instead of that, staying. So the idea of staying in the street is a very important matter for all those organizations that are claiming for those square meters. And of course, to do so, the first thing that we had to do, and that we finished 5 years ago, is to create the network of public transportation, superficial public transportation, that is fixing those basic streets. So the first thing we did is to change all the buses and creating like this rectangular structure of buses that go horizontal and vertical, like in Manhattan. So we kind of taken the model of Manhattan and making them to go through those basic streets. So that was the first. And the second, of course, and mainly because to do so, the main reason is because now many people are using the neighborhood to cross with their cars. More than 350,000 cars are crossing the city through this neighborhood. So it's just by pushing them out, because we need people that they go with their cars to that neighborhood, but we don't need people that they use that neighborhood to cross it, because there are other ways with those highways that we have around to cross it. So it's kind of easy to use it in a proper way, all this new net. But as I say, after doing the net of buses, the next thing was with the students, and something that we did with the schools. We gathered with our students of 5 different schools of architecture in Barcelona, and we wanted to prove it ourselves for a weekend. And we make the pilot superblock, which we took it was the festivity of one neighborhood, and we took this super block and we went there with paint, and I love this image, with plastic bags, and we cover the street lights, and we create for a weekend, and as a tactical project, the first super block. It was without money, only with more than 400 students of all the different schools, and we create 1 year of projects of how could we transform super blocks, and at the same time we create the first one tactically in the neighborhood of San Martin. No, this was very, very interesting to see how neighborhoods started to come and started to really claim this, and also neighborhoods that started to complain, of course, because this is a very radical idea to not allow cars going through, and many people, of course, complain. No? But we did it, and mainly the most interesting part was in one of those corners where people used to cross at 60 kilometers hour. Here we stopped the cars, we stopped the cars in the whole super block, and we create a parliament. We draw in the floor the Parliament of Catalonia, and we gather in this area with, this is Salvador Rueda, the inventor of the idea of the super blocks. No? This is our politician, Janet Sant, my boss. This is the architect, the professor. This is Iñaki Vaquero, my former partner. And here are the students, the neighborhoods, the technicians. And at that day, people start knowing what super block is. We start discussing. Here you see Salvador Rueda very, very angry at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, discussing with the neighborhoods, and here Salvador Rueda very tired. At 1, we still were there. 1 at night, keep discussing with the people of the neighborhood. Of course, next day, the idea of superblock, which nobody knew what it was, started to become known. That's why very important the tactical projects are meant to prove things and also to communicate things. No? And in this case, next day, of course, in taxi cabs, in bars, in all the newspapers, in televisions, the idea of superblock started to become a reality with this first idea. Of course, next day, people against, people pro, and we've been 1 year discussing, changing the project, and also thinking about what to do with this. No? When you take cars out, what can you do? No? And this was one of the installations that we did with the students, no? Asking, no? What can happen here in these empty spaces for the citizenship. And after 1 year, talking with the neighborhoods, and the neighborhoods creating new programs started to become a reality, not that tactical, more strategical. No? So now, the other day, we with the students, we calculated, we went there and see how many new users are in those spaces, and it's amazing. The old streets, you have only 20 users. Here, we counted more than 200, because everybody thinks a new thing to do in a space that is for them. This, of course, I mean, we never had people doing yoga. It seems like it's like Japan. Personally, it's not like Japan that we don't do yoga in the street. But in this case, of course, it happens, and you go in the morning and you will see them doing it. The second super block, it was not that tactical, and of course, the first super block was very good to allow other neighborhoods to ask for the pilot super block. So we did the second one around a marketplace, no? And a marketplace that was all like this around, no? And has been transformed, not with paint and plastic bags, but with a more permanent project, which I don't think is much better. It's much better to look at the picture, but if you go there, you will feel the energy in the other one, in the pilot one, with more tactical elements that in this one, which is more, I would say, obvious, the transformation. But still is, of course, the same general strategy of the superblock. No? And next to it is the third one, which this one is in the middle. It's a little bit tactical and a little bit permanent. But then the pandemic came when we were at that point, no? People discussing stuff and people locked in their houses. We used that, and maybe this sounds a little bit superblocks by taking lanes to the car and making bigger sidewalks. Because of the pandemic, we couldn't walk in a small sidewalk, so it was a great excuse to enlarge sidewalks in some streets. But the streets that we've chosen were the streets that were thought to be transforming a superblock theory. So we used the pandemic as a tactical way to go further with a statistical. So we had streets like this, that we were taking one lane, allowing the sidewalk to be bigger and not touching people with one another, and many others, and of course bike lanes. We create 200 kilometers of bike lanes using a little bit this great opportunity. And one of the most beautiful projects that we did is in front of every school. More than I think that now they're doing 200 schools are protecting kids. Protecting schools, it's named the project, by taking lanes in front of the schools. When the kids go out from the schools, they are not cross with the cars, and they don't breathe the air of the cars. So that was a very important tactical moment. Even many people started saying that we are doing things very ugly. I don't know. I don't think this is ugly. It's tactical, of course, and we were using these elements to enlarge also the terraces of the bars and taking lanes for the cars. And of course, during these years, we've been many people, even the intelligentsia, architectonic intelligentsia, saying that we are doing things very ugly, that Barcelona is a very beautiful, as I said, Barcelona posa't guapa, make yourself pretty. Barcelona is a pretty city, a very bourgeois and pretty city, and all these ugly things that we do is not something very, very Barcelonian. But I think that as I said, we were dealing with something which was very urgent, which is those layers. The first one, which is taking profit of that moment to really create a better air. So the next step was to create a competition. I don't know if the video goes on. Well, if not, well, it's a competition that expresses a little bit the next step, which the next step is to create those axes that connect superblocks. Instead of doing it by islands, as we did in the pilots, we were taking by three blocks and creating these pilot projects. Instead of doing this, what we decided is to do to build up the new streets that connects them. Because in this way, one of the complaints of the citizenship is that we were only acting in an island, in a place where people were very happy. But the ones that they are outside of this island, they were not that happy. So the idea to change the strategy, to build up the whole project of Superblock is by creating those axes and some plazas. So we create now an international competition to end up. We started with 4 plazas and 4 streets, and now we are going to 21 plazas and 21 streets. The idea is to change the old street of Sardà, the engineer that designed the city of Barcelona. That was this scheme, very intelligent, 10 road, 5 and 5 of sidewalks, and those great trees that are all over. But the road of the 20th century, in fact, was this. Was not what Sardà thought. Was a city that's taken by those cars. And the idea of the 21st century street is to recover, to reconquer, as at the beginning of the title of the explanation, those areas, and also to connect with the accessibility and the programs that are in the ground floor, and the people that they live here, which we want that people stays in our city instead of being kicked out because of gentrification. So it's a project, not only a project of public space, it's a project of housing, public space, health, and different things that happen around these areas that are transformed. And of course, the corner of now it's a corner that people cross with their cars, and what we want is to have those plazas that the works are starting now. And we will have, at the end of next year, the first 4 plazas and 4 streets being transformed. No? A street that definitely, if you know Barcelona, most of Barcelona is like this, because we don't have many parks and plazas, no? And the idea is to become like this, with the title of the project, which relates also with the strategy, the general strategy, which is putting the people in the center of the street. No? As you remember, that onion, that the people was in the center, and that you create, this is a little bit like the onion. No? Instead of having cars in the street of the skin, we have people, and around the people, no, we create this new transformation. So, thank you very much.
So, thanks a lot for this inspiring presentation. Way more than we expected.
Yeah.
Way more than we expected.
Way more.
Yeah, but way more ideas is always good. And raising a lot of questions. And I have prepared a lot of questions, but since I know that we have some drinks later on, I can ask my questions to you later. And want to first ask the people in the audience, do you have questions? Do you want to know more about one or the other projects?
Or you want to have dinner?
No. We'll make 15 minutes of discussion. No questions. Tassos, you have a question?
I have a question.
Will you speak up a little bit? You have to speak staccato in this space here.
I'm trying. So, thank you very much for that. It's very inspiring, and it's very inspiring with this 2 scales. But then you talked about one new priority that the city has, which is the right to housing. Is that correct? How do the super blocks promote the right to housing? And a second question would be, you also talked about the necessary infrastructures, maybe densifying within public transportation. But of course, in these superblocks there were also parked cars, etc. Because we also see this problem also in Athens about cars being the main mobility or transportation means. How is Barcelona dealing with that?
Well, these 2 things that you're asking are very important. Are very important, and they go simultaneously. I would say, I don't know if you know, I showed the first images. Maragall, our former mayor that everybody recognized as the transformer, of the one who transformed Barcelona during the 80s and 90s. And he was very obsessed with public space, because at that point, of course, the main issue was to allow people go out from their houses and start gathering together, no? And public space was the main issue. And of course, Barcelona has a name on public space because has been dealing it. Our mayor now is Ada Colau. She comes from housing. Is an activist. Was an activist of, or he is an activist. Now he's a politician. He was an activist of defending the right for people not being evicted. No? So she's from PA. Is a platform against evictions. And when she started, of course, most of the things that I didn't explain are of these hundreds of projects. Most of them are related with housing. And the difficult thing is because housing people are in one building and urbanist people in public space are in another. The main thing is how do we deal with transversality and really do those projects at the same time and in the same place to assure that this transformation doesn't kick people out from their houses. Gentrification you do something like this, and next day all the prices of your rent are rising up. So it's very important, the projects that I didn't explain about housing, because some of them are overlapping. One of the things, but not the only, is building in the superblock affordable houses. That's the main reason. Or you build it because you have space, like in Poplano, or you buy an old building and then you transform it into a public affordable housing. Then another thing very important, we are doing something that we are now dealing it, and we are not succeeding because it's not something that depends on the municipality. We want to stop, like they did in Berlin, to stop allowing the rents to go up. So it's something very, very important to do so. Yeah, in Berlin they had problems. They stopped it, but we are writing a new law that's something very important, because all these changes, they definitely are a good excuse for owners to rising up their rents, and it would be terrible. And there are many other strategies that they go along. The difficult thing, I insist, is to do both the strategies and do it at the same time and at the same place, which is something not easy.
Yeah, and may I add, I think this is a very important one also for Athens, because you have a very, very special structure of ownership in the city, and not so much, let's say, control of the public spaces. So this is what I learned over the last 2 years, and I think what you said, that you have to deal with public interest on one side, but also knowing that there are individuals which maybe welcome your project to make their own profit, and then the whole thing is not beneficial. I think this is a very important one, and I would be really interested in learning more about that, because I think the situation gets even more critical if you go in the poorer areas of the city. You said we are also doing projects along the Bezos River. I was there in the mid-90s, and it was really not a comfortable place at the time.
No, it's terrible.
It's terrible, exactly. But if we want to, let's say, grow the superblock strategy to the entire city,
and it should be, which is not, it should be metropolitan.
Or even metropolitan, but that makes this, let's say, very clear view of what are we doing exactly at the interface of the private and the public, the real estate industry, and let's say the public realm, to really keep an eye on this, because then otherwise things can go really wrong.
Well, okay. There is one conclusion which is terrible for architects and urbanists, is I don't know in English, I'll be able to say it, you get better if you do something to get better, the things get worse.
Yeah.
And this is a terrible conclusion, because then people start, let's not do nothing. No? This is not, we cannot allow to say so. We need to try to make things better and not to get worse. And this is what is very difficult, because that's what happened in Barcelona. We got better until the Olympic Games, and then you realize that situation, that good situation, started to become good, but not for the citizenship. It started to become good for others that came to make a business out of it.
Yeah, this brings me to another question I have for you. You said maybe we have projects which look as if they are maritime, but they have nothing to do with the sea, right? So it's just maritime. And let me just use this kind of comparison and come to the question of the green in the city, or the ecological things. Very often in the cities we are producing spaces which look green, like a lawn on a concrete roof or something like that, but they are not green. They are not ecological. So how do you get hold of this knowledge you need to understand these ecological processes? What plans to plan?
There's one question that we always say: what is greener, a golf can or a train? What is greener? Because the train has no green, but it's greener, definitely greener.
Yeah, but
and a golf can is not green at all. It's greenwashing.
Yes, but I'm asking this question because in the moment we really have the risk that we're, let's say, using the debate on greening the city for letting the city look green, so green painting, yeah, but it's not ecological at all, or greenwashing, yes. And the same goes also for, let's say, social things, right? So the city looks social, but in the end it's not so social because the economic model behind does not work. Do you have any ideas? What should we do as architects and planners? Not to decide for projects which are only look green, but which are green. What new knowledge do we have to target?
Well, I mean,
who are the ones which we have to ask?
The thing is that maybe there's one critic that we could say to our scheme, putting people in the center. There are some others more radical that they say that we shouldn't put people in the center, we should put the planet in the center. And every project you do, you should ask the planet if this project is really green, and be sure that any decision you take is not even for the people, for the planet. At this point that we are, I think that maybe we should put along people and planet. Somebody said we need to balance the possibility of getting to the end of the month and not the end of the world. So how do you deal with those two ends? And it's important that by doing so, you don't leave people aside, or by doing this, you don't leave the planet aside. So it's very important to deal both, to put in the center not only people, but putting them both and calculate each decision you take if are responding to those two main issues.
And this is something which Telemachos also said before, right? So you need to commit yourself to a certain pragmatism. It is absolutely useless to propose projects which are impossible. You have to come up with ideas for possible projects, right? And I think this mix of, let's say, saying we also have to follow this kind of social economic perspective and not making everything, let's say, a part of saving the world, but really making the city a livable thing. I mean, it also starts a cultural process, and these people are maybe in the end behaving more greener or more ecological than before. But there was another question, right?
There are one plan is to change culture. Barcelona has 6,000 cars per kilometer. New York has 4,000. Paris, I think, has 3,000. Madrid has 4,000. That's 6,000. So one thing that we have to do is change culture and not taking the car and showing that we have a great infrastructure of public transportation in Barcelona. We have metro, we have bus, we have many things that we need to convince people that they're taking every day their car and they could do it. More than I think that somebody calculated, more than 60% of the trips that people are doing, they could be done by public transport. So this first thing is about culture. The second is about investing in public transportation. We have a good public transportation, but it's the same one before Olympic Games. We didn't do anything. We are facing a connection of a tram, which is a very nice project that I show you, but of course it has been, this transformation of taking cars out has to be also together with having better quality of the public transportation. See, you have to be there, you have to have Wi-Fi, you have to be more comfortable, you have to sit, it has to be more frequently, you have to get there easily and faster, it has to be cheap, so you have to change, and also you have to enlarge the network of public transportation. The first thing of changing vertical was very important because we improved more than 15% of the quality of the fast of the whole system. But then also we have to invest in more southern. We are finishing one big line that also has been stopped for 20 years, and now we are doing it again. And so the metro, the bus, the railway connecting with the neighborhoods and the metropolitan area is something we have a very bad system, and we have to invest. It's something that has to be done by the state because this is not about the municipality. But this is something that we are pushing very much to have this connection with the neighborhood. So it's a double, you have to take cars, but you have to have a plan of improving public transportation at the same time. And it's not about creating more tunnels. We just finished one tunnel now, which we are very sad. We are opening the tunnel, but in fact, inside of us, we don't believe in that because it was a tunnel that started 10 years ago, and we finish it now. because this is not the solution. To keep putting cars under the carpet, this is not the solution. No? The solution is investing in public transportation and changing the culture, which is something that is not easy at all. Now we are in this moment, and if you go to Barcelona, you will see many people complaining because they like to go with their cars everywhere.
Do you believe that the future technology of driverless cars that may appear in 20 or 30 years will be something better for the transportation network? I mean, these cars are supposed to be shared, but not parked in the streets. Do you believe that this is something that may help?
And sharing. I think it's many things which are at the same time working together. One is I don't believe that much in the self-driving car, but in the sharing network completely. We already have a sharing system of bicycles and motorbikes. The car, we have it, but very small, and we don't have very well planned the way to share cars. And I think that this is a very important thing, that we don't need to have cars. We need to share them. And of course we will need cars. It's obvious that we will still go in sometimes by car because we'll have an emergency or whatever. But those cars, it's not necessary that you own them and that you have more than 80, I think it's 82% of the time placed in the parking lot, not moving a year. So it's so stupid to have cars in this situation. No? So, but of course we don't have at this moment a very good public and sharing system of cars, but it's something that is being implemented. The self-driving car and all this, I would like to have self-driving public transportation. Then we will see. Of course, I would like that if we invest in self-driving something, it should be in transportation of goods, in transportation of people, in distribution of urban mercancías, I don't know how you say in English. But, yeah, right? That could be very interesting, to have automatized systems of distribution of goods and of people, but the self-driving car, it will happen, but I wouldn't say it's like the main thing.
Okay, I have another question for you. Here, you showed this very nice image of the boar and the seagull and saying we have to link the mountains and the north because they have a certain ecological potential with the sea. And then you draw a continuous green line through the entire city, and we know that it's a very stony city, so there's a lot of, let's say, obstacles in your green corridor. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with this also in communication with people that maybe it takes some 40 years to build this route, and maybe you start with small projects. What is your strategy to start with this project and not saying, hey, let's wait until we have this corridor cleaned out and then we do the big project?
Well, the superblock will help,
yes,
because the green axes are coincidental with the green corridors, and that will help a lot. The one that you saw drawn, it's already done. Mm-hmm. It's a lack of I don't know how many meters, but it's almost finished because it's one street which was wide enough to redesign it, which is Paseo San Juan, that has become a green corridor already. And of course, this green corridor, it's very well suited in the strategy of superblock access. So that I would say that that's the way that we should build up those corridors, by doing what we are trying to do, which is connecting them through the project of superblock.
But you said that was an easy one because it's a wide street, right? Other cases are maybe more tricky. Is there a strategy to say, well, we can start anyway with starting little pieces or adding on with other projects and then wait how it, let's say, evolves over decades maybe?
Yes, well, this is sometimes, in the work that we do in Barcelona Regional, we make the strategy. But then there is somebody, sometimes we do it as well, we have to deal with the, we call mientras tanto, while, what do we do from now to the best and beautiful finish, photo finish, no? And it's most important nowadays to design the process, as you were saying, no, okay, we have now the opportunity of this little plaza, so let's put a tree here, blah, blah, blah. Now we have this street, oh, let's take one and put the sidewalk, and then you build things a pieces, and you end up by saying, recognizing the whole final project. No? And in the middle, you have to accept that. I think that's the most beautiful thing of planning, that of everything, in fact, that in the middle you kind of detour, because sometimes things happen, maybe a technology that needs to be implemented, maybe a new political view, and then what you have in the middle, it has to be detoured and translated to a new idea. No? So, but you have to be convinced, whatever you do, and you have to be also convinced that the ideas evolve, because people are accepting or not, and you have to talk with people to allow the project to become their project, not on something that you impose from above. No? So I think this happened very much in the Superblock project. It was a big idea, but then when you implement it at the first time in Superblock in the tactical one, we realized that many things that we thought, they were not well thought, because people, they were claiming for other uses, or they were claiming for other solutions. And the second Superblock was adapting the ideas of and the second one at the same time is evolving to the third one, and the idea is not a fixed idea that you impose. It's an idea that is growing, and that is transforming and adapting and detouring every time.
But I think you said something very important to take for you as a student. It's not enough just to design the big project and big idea with which you can convince the people, but you also need to design the process. How do we go on if certain things change? Or how do we go on with maybe other partners than the ones we had in our mind, or something like that? I think you really succeeded in this.
And you have to take risk and not be afraid of failing. I think it's good to fail.
Yeah, this is why city transformation in Germany is so enormously slow, because the Germans really have a very strange relation to risk. Okay, good, but are there any other questions?
You spoke in the beginning that politics are important for the city transformation. Could you elaborate a bit about the role of politics? Because how do you guarantee continuity for such large projects? How do you keep your directions when politics sometimes change?
Well, the first thing is that urban design, urbanism, it's a political issue. That's very important. And we have to do it in schools. We say it every time. We have a group of research group that's called Family Architects or something like that, or because we're working with people, and we say it all the time that it's an ideological issue and a politician issue. We have to repoliticize architecture in the schools, everywhere, because there is an urbanism of the right and one of the left and one of ecological and one. I mean, there is a decision, a political decision behind, and an ideology behind every urban decision. You are shaping the places that we live, and it's so, can it be more ideological than that? I hate when sometimes I read, no, because the government of Barcelona is too much ideological. Of course, and we are very glad because of that, because of course it is. So it's very important that urbanism is not something that architects decide. Urbanism is something that politicians have a vision, and people vote them and work with them and create platforms. Most of the things that we're doing are not ideas of architects, are ideas of the neighborhoods that are claiming for changes, and those changes are being, of course, worked with many people of different areas, which are not only architects, definitely, that are working, like in Barcelona Regional. We have engineers, geographers, architects, urbanists, social workers, and all of them sitting in a table is the way that I think now cities are being planned. Not by somebody in their studio thinking and having okay, I have the inspiration, and now this road is going to be like this. This is stupid. No, The cities are not, they will not be done this way, like Oscar Niemeyer drawing in a paper in Brasilia. I don't believe in that. Not in our cities, at least, in our dense, packed, already built. The cities, many people come to Barcelona Regional and says, okay, you work with the city of the future, how is it going to be the city of the future? And I always say the same. I take them to the window and say, look, the city of the future is this one. Maybe we will learn how to reuse it, rethink, replan. Maybe we will find a way to work with, but the city is already there. I think very pessimistic to those people that they think that ideas are from scratch. I hate scratch. I always think that it's better to work with what is already there.
Yeah, but what I like about your point is that you're really saying, as an architect, as a planner, as a designer, you need to have an idea of a good city in your mind. So you cannot just design a city, yeah. But you need to know what is the good city for me. But I also say it's not your private job. You have to discuss it with the people, whether they share your view, because very often we forget that there are other people which have maybe very, very different ideas about things, and then we're surprised that we cannot go for our projects because other people in the city say, well, we're not so happy about your ideology. So I also think that when thinking about architecture education, we should talk a little bit more about politics and society and how do we bring our ideas through in public discussion. Yeah. Okay, so I have an ultimate question for you. What do you think about drinks?
Drinks. I'm drinking the whole thing because I cannot even talk anymore.
I hope that you're just saying I want to have one, because we're now closing.
Great.
Thanks again for this great presentation and inspiring discussion.